Again, we're creating environments that are rich in literacy, are making the connection between literacy and functionality, why literacy is important, and really celebrate literacy. I've covered a few examples in the video before, doing birthday parties out of characters, gifting books, and not just books, but writing utensils, um, scissors, glue, just things that allow a child to sit down and play and just have writing and communication related activities. And so it could be Play-Doh, it can be the glitter and glue, it can just be things just to make gift cards. That's all falls within literacy, but just that ability to just sit and communicate, that's literacy. So gifting those types of things and modeling behavior, it's huge because our children have to be able to see us apply literacy in a real way. And so I want to give you two stories, which I love. One of them is a personal story, and one of them is from a man that I know. So the first one is I once met a man, prominent businessman in St. Louis, and he said, growing up, my grandfather raised me with my mother, and he was my hero. He was my everything, and he would wake up in the morning and drink his coffee black, and he would read his paper. And back then, to be able to just spend money on something that wasn't um, necessary was a big thing. So for him to go out and get the newspaper every day was, something that struck with that young boy. So he said every morning he would get up and he would read it cover to cover. And he always said, if you want to be in control in life, if you want to be somebody in life, you have to be in the know. You have to know what's going on. And he watched, he observed his grandfather read that paper every single day of his life. And it just became something that he wanted to do. He wanted to read. He wanted to be in the know. He wanted to know about current events. He just wanted to be this distinguished man. And sure enough, later on, years down the line, as he became an adult, he realized his grandfather was illiterate. His grandfather, even though he himself did not know how to read, understood how important of a quality and skill that was. And he modeled it every day of his life because that's what he wanted his son, well, his grandson, to pick up as a man. And so whether or not, you're actually reading or not is inconsequential, but the value of the modeling cannot be replaced by an app, cannot be replaced by a phone, an iPad, cannot be replaced by a center that you drop your children off. Your children must see you and you must model behavior, and it doesn't have to do with what you like, what you don't. If your children never see you reading for anything or writing for anything, then they will not think that is of any value. And so write out Christmas cards, write out or holiday cards or thank you cards or questionnaires, and really just make sure that your children are observing you do that. Create a family newsletter and mail it off to family members across the country. Create a pen pal for your child, or if your sister lives out of state, you guys can journal or do some kind of pen pal thing and include the children in that, because your child can see the importance of journaling, of writing, of sending a message, of communicating that you love somebody. Write your children love notes. Write your adult parents love notes. Mail them off. Letter writing, bill playing, reading, just to read, research. Those are all things that you must model and you must celebrate them. Before I do my story, I want to say make sure that you're not using writing or reading as anything that's optional, but also anything that's negative. Writing and reading has to be celebrated and something that is valued, but you don't say, go do your work in a negative way, especially early on before a child starts to go to school. Or if you don't behave, you don't clean up your room, you have to write. If you don't behave, I won't read to you. These are all messages that are sending that this is optional, it's important, it's only a prize, it's not really vital. You don't play with things like that. You wouldn't say, if you don't behave, I won't. Don't get to eat, or if you don't behave, I won't feed you, or if you misbehave, you have to eat whatever. You wouldn't do that, and don't do it with books, because you have to make a connection that books are important, vital, that literacy is important and vital. My example was that last year, my son was playing with an electronic or a remote control helicopter, and he lost it in the sewer. Just the hole in the sidewalk, and it went, and it was on a Sunday, and he was having a fit. So I said, "Listen, let's just think about this. We're not going to be able to do anything. So what can we do that can maybe possibly give us a solution? We can't call the company because this is Sunday, or Saturday, but let's write them an email and see if Monday there's anything that we can do." So he dictated what he wanted to communicate. I typed it, I sent it. Sure enough, Monday morning, they came knocking on the door. They thought it was so touching and peculiar that the child wrote this email. And they sent a technician out to the address, and they retrieved the helicopter. And here was the man with the helicopter. And if nothing else, it allowed my child to make the connection between literacy and empowerment. Because it wasn't about, at that point, it wasn't about the helicopter. It's about when something goes wrong, you can do something. You can use language to communicate. I used language to calm him down and find a solution. We then agreed, and then we wrote, and we were able to satisfy something, meet a need that we had. And so it's important that we're constantly, every single day, creating opportunities to connect information, to connect the habits, to model the habits to our children. If we think about it, if we think about our children's experiences with actual literacy every day, and how often and how much of our time is spent modeling literacy to our children, it's not even 10 or 20% of our day. Such a small fragment of our day, such a small percentage of our day. And that goes on for 4, 5, 6 years, and then we send children off to school, and that's 100% of their day, and we're not understanding why our children aren't connecting. It's because we went from 10 to 20% to 100% of their day. There's a disconnection with that. And so really, principle 1 is the least technical one, but it's vital because we have to create these environments that really celebrate and integrate literacy into our lives. Last 2 points on this video, and then we're done with this principle. Our boys are our most vulnerable population when it comes to literacy. Most boys get a haircut. So barber shops are extremely important to make literacy connections. If you know a barber, or if you're comfortable with bringing it up with your barber, having literacy corners at barbershops is extremely important. Having boards where children can write, or where the adults are writing, to model to the child, is important. Having barbers giving out the guides, the racing reading guides, it's something that I'm working with. So let's use the one place where boys get to see men value something. Let's use barbershops as a place to really promote literacy. That is a huge deal, and it's something that I'm working with. So again, but you can do it yourself. Just advocate in your local community to really include that. And I will make a point about boys and literacy. Again, they are our most vulnerable population. Our boys are not even reading on average through high school. 12, maybe 12% are reading at grade grade level. And so it's something that we have to really, really, really work on to try to reach our boys. A lot of mothers are raising their boys by themselves as single women, as head of households. What happens with that a lot of the time is that boys are thinking that this is something because they watch mom do literacy and then they have a lot of female teachers. It could be considered a woman thing to do, a female thing to do. So it's extremely important that you get uncles, grandfathers, fathers, friends, older siblings, any opportunity that you have for a man to read or model literacy to a boy is extremely important. And so it is vital that they see themselves in that process and that you're creating those opportunities. This is for, of course, this is for those of us racing and caring for young boys. And so that's it. Again, the first principle seems it's the least technical of all of them. It seems redundant, but if you think about the fact that our children are watching and observing us do a lot of things throughout the day, and that such a small percentage of that is spent on literacy, then it makes sense that children in kindergarten, first grade, and just in school do not make the connection of why this is so vital, because they just spent 4, 5, 6 years where it was just 10, 20% of their time. So let's make that connection for them. All right.